good afternoon. What, me worry? It's been a not so sweet 16 start to the regular season for the Astros, but come on, don't panic yet. Some old AL West punching bags maybe got a little bit of redemption in Minute Maid Park. It ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun, but unfortunately for the AL West, this isn't Judgment Day. It's more like Groundhog Day. It's episode 19 of Stone Cold Stros, and it starts right now.
Astros, world champions!
Welcome into Stone Cold Stros. I'm Brandon Strange, and the man in the middle is Charlie Palillo. He is Sports Map Houston senior content contributor. You can follow him on Twitter at Palillo and read his weekly column on sportsmap.com. Next to him is sportsmap.com editor and host of ESPN 97.5 and 92.5's Moneyline, Josh Yordan. Follow him on Twitter at JoshJordan975. Charlie, Josh, welcome in.
Cheer up, Brandon. I don't think slow inhale, deep exhales are necessary at this point. And if the Rangers are getting redemption in April, their bar of ambition is set exceedingly low.
You're not wrong about that, Charlie. And just for a second, I want to take a chance to welcome in our live audience here. People are still making their way in. We want to remind everybody we do this podcast every single Monday at 3 p.m. right here on YouTube. And if you'd prefer to do the audio version instead, just search Stone Cold Stros on your favorite podcast provider, and we will be there. We appreciate it. If you would, throw us a follow, throw us a like, ring the bell. You'll get notifications every time we go live.
And sorry for those listening on the audio version. I usually edit out the housekeeping notes, but because this is my anniversary tonight, I will not have time to edit the audio version. So, but shout out to
that.
but shout out to everyone listening on Apple and Spotify, among others. You guys have been coming strong, listening to the audio platforms. So we do appreciate that audience. Want to give you a shout out. Don't want to just ignore you guys just for the YouTubers, but you should probably watch us live on YouTube. That's, I think, the best experience. Well, I talked about in the open, it's Groundhog Day. Astros going 9-7. It's just tale as old as time. Let's been bandied about on the local media as how the Astros have started 7-9 the last 3 seasons. This is their 4th straight 7-9 start, which I guess means it's on pace to either win a World Series, go to a World Series, or push to the Game 7 of ALCS. Josh, I want to start with you because when we were doing prep for this, you said this feels different. This 7-9 feels different. I've heard that echoed on social media. I want you to tell me why, and then Charlie, same question.
For me, the pitching is really not quite what we've been used to. I'm not as down on the starters as a lot of the other people I've heard in the media. I think it's just been a little bad luck. Luis Garcia mostly, but the rest of the starters doing okay. The bullpen's hurting you. We didn't expect Ryan Presley and Stanek to be the guys in the bullpen that aren't coming through for us right now, but it's early in the season. I think velocity's a little bit down across the whole squad. I'll get into that a little bit later, but it just feels different. You don't feel like if Altuve comes back, everything's going to get better because DeBond's been playing well. So you don't feel like that's automatically going to get things started for you. And then for me, the McCormick, man, I hope he's back soon. The new lineups came out for today. We're recording this on Monday. McCormick's still not in tonight's lineup, so more Jake Myers. That's where it's getting a little bit scary. And of course, Abreu, we'll get into him a little bit. That hasn't quite been what we've been looking for, especially in the cleanup spot. I wonder if things maybe need to be shifted around a little bit.
Well, coming off 106 regular season wins and then basically rolling through the playoffs, 11-2 and winning the World Series, shy of a Tampa Bay Rays type start to this regular season. The standards for the Astros internally, but certainly among fans and some observers, so high that you can almost not help but fail to live up to expectations that you're supposed to just relentlessly kick ass, take names from opening day through the last game played late October or early November. It said, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. So all in all, I guess hope the Astros aren't much as historians go. 7-9, 7-9, 7-9, and now this year 7-9. I will reference those brokerage ads, the tiny print at the bottom, or a voice that says past performance is no guarantee of future results. So it's not like it's the plan. Hey, 7-9, we got them right where we want them. The Astros have looked like an eminently mediocre team to this point, a hair below. There have been leaks in the lineup. There have been leaks in the starting rotation and the bullpen. The defense, which has also been a consistent staple of excellence. Back-to-back games with 2 errors. They won the game Saturday over the Rangers with 2, but sloppy. 2 more errors on Sunday. 7 unearned runs given up in 1 game. That's not tough to pull off, but the Astros did. Numerous base running mistakes. Just within the last week, Alex Bregman, David Hensley, Mauricio Dubon, all with bonehead plays, giving away outs on the bases. So I'll stick to my trope from weeks past. If you have a 7-9 stretch in mid-June, it's a bit of a funk. It's not going well, but it's a slice of the season, right? We're still in the first inning of the season. 1/9 of the season has not yet been completed. But when you're 7-9 out of the chute, it's all anyone has to evaluate or stew over. It seems much worse than it is. They're 2.5 games out of first place. The Rangers are legitimately improved, but anyone think they're going to win 96 games? And boy, it's going to be tough for the Astros to hang in contention. The Mariners have won 4 in a row. Well, they just got to play the Rockies over the weekend. They're at 500. So the Astros are 1 game behind them. They're a half game behind the Angels, and the A's are just a laughing stock. So, it hasn't been all you-know-what and giggles for the Astros, the balance of the season to this point, but there's a lot of time for laughing to be had.
Well, redemption in April is hollow, like you said. You don't also win World Series in April. You also mentioned Seattle Mariners, who were thought to be one of the contenders within the division, scuffling out of the gate at 8-8. But it's probably how I think, one of the things for the Astros, it's how you got here. Charlie, you mentioned it. Defense has always been a staple of the Astros. It's why they've kept around guys like Mauricio Dubon and played guy like Jake Myers and have faded a guy like Maldy's bat because they believe heavily in defense. But Jose Abreu has been kind of an interesting contrast to that style, because the Astros are also reportedly very averse to long contracts that take guys into their later years. And yet they signed, Jose Abreu on the back end of his career. And he's not a guy who's traditionally been a good defender. And so we're seeing that play out. I don't think he's as bad of a defender as what we're seeing early, which is why I hold out hope. I still think what little offensive output he's given you, which has mostly just been singles, you weren't even getting that from Yuli Gurriel at the beginning of the season last year. But the difference is you also weren't giving out maybe as much, giving back as much on the base path and in errors, which culminated, gigantically and Sunday night's blowout. But Charlie, are you with Abreu specifically? Do you think this is a sign of things to come, or do you think it's just way too early for the Astros to give up on Abreu and maybe even make a move in the lineup?
Way too early to give up on him. Dropping him in the lineup, that can be warranted sooner than later. It's not as if you're benching the guy. I'm sure Dusty would say, well, I'm trying to split my left-handed hitters in Yordan and Kyle Tucker. Okay, there's some argument for that. But, Abreu comes up and makes an out. It makes it easier for opposing teams to work around Kyle Tucker and then get to the softer bottom 4 spots in the Astros lineup. Maybe this is a little bit of are you more glass half full or half empty by your nature? There is the reality that Abreu is 36 years old. Father Time can suddenly reel you in, as he did Yuli Gurriel last year. So is there the possibility that the Astros sign Abreu 3 years at 36 years old, when they won't go Tucker 8 years, which would have that up when he's still only 34 years old? At least to this point, they haven't been willing to go there. You got Abreu just in time for him tumble down that hill. He's fallen and won't get up. Yeah, that's an absolute possibility. But I would say, and some of which I noted in the Sports Map column last week, which has only gotten worse for Abreu since, he woke up May 16th of last season, batting 197 with an OPS right about 600, and went on to finish hitting 307, have a real solid year. I think the biggest concern at this point, apart from the calamitous, $58.5 million shot to hell, and what are you going to do at first base going forward? The ongoing power drought. Maybe his days as a substantial power hitter are gone. I know it was a fun rush to judgment. He's going to hit pop flies that land in the Crawford boxes. Well, if you can never get around on fastballs anymore to pull them, it's going to be hard to find those Crawford boxes. From last season's last 55 games of his regular season through the first 16 games as an Astro, 71 games, check my math, 1 home run for Jose Abreu. 1 homer the last 55 games of last season, zip through the first 16. Hey, maybe he hits a jag, chugs from the fountain of youth, but that's nearly a half season worth of baseball with 1 home run. The offset on that last year was, well, he hit 300. He was drawing walks. So far this season, call a spade a spade. He's stunk across the board. The batting average is now down to about 250. He's drawn 3 walks with 60-plus official at-bats. And the defense, I forget which word you used, Brandon, but I was thinking, it's your anniversary. You're feeling charitable. I mean, Yuli a couple of years ago won a Gold Glove. Abreu too often so far looks like he's wearing a Gold Glove out there. So maybe he's pressing a little bit, even with all he accomplished through his tenure with the White Sox, joining the World Series champs and replacing a popular Yuli Gurriel. Or maybe it's just as simple as a slow start is a slow start. He had a really slow start over a longer stretch last season, wound up having a good season. But when you're 36 years old, the idea that it doesn't bear watching would be foolhardy.
Yeah, and the eye test too, right, guys? I mean, you're seeing at bats with Abreu where it's 3 pitches and he's heading back to the dugout. And when the eye test shows you too, you don't see him squaring up the ball a lot and hitting it hard. You don't feel like he's hitting in a lot of tough outs. Where on the flip side, I feel like Luis Garcia struggles. The guys he gets out are getting to the warning track with power, where with Abreu, he's lucky to poke it through the infield. And I pulled up some of his stats too. His OPS 550, that's the worst on the team out of all your everyday starters. The other big one with Abreu too is if you're not going to get the power, you hope he puts the ball in play. Well, he has the second most strikeouts. He's just 1 behind Pena with 18. So he's also striking out a lot to go along with not generating much power. So that's the concern. And where he is in the lineup, it seems like every time you need something to happen, it's him or Jake Myers or somebody like that coming up, and they can't pull it off. The other thing I'd point to, we mentioned Kyle Tucker earlier with his walks. He has 14. He leads the team, kind of showing you that not a lot of protection for Kyle Tucker. If I was a pitcher, I wouldn't be pitching to him. I'd be pitching around him also.
One more follow-up amplification on Abreu's struggles. He's just late a lot. And you get older, you lose the reflexes. Maybe you just don't have the bat speed, the whip-like motion, getting the bat through the zone and so forth. And, the advanced breakdowns of his second half last season where the batting average maintained, but the power fell off, that he had a big problem handling quality heat, which we'll define as 95 miles per hour plus. Well, if you're a year older and you're cognizant of the fact that, I need to cheat a little, I need to start that swing or be guessing a little bit on the fastball if I'm going to get around on it. Well, that makes you more vulnerable to the breaking ball. And, he had one at bat in the Rangers series where the first 2 pitches were sliders down and away, like 2 feet out of the zone. And that he's flailing at them like, what were you thinking? Chad McCormick's the one who's supposed to have the vision problems right now. So, it's been an awful start, but 1/10 of the season. Maybe this goes on to be a real bad signing. If so, all right, no one's perfect in the decision-making game. At least it's not an 11-year, $320 million mistake or something like that. But in terms of the quality of the depth and the heart of the Astros lineup, if Abreu doesn't at least become decent, they're probably going to have to be in the market for a bat unless, because my presumption is Altuve is going to be good when he gets back, unless Michael Brantley, at 36 years old himself, whenever indeed he gets back, adds quality on base percentage along with Altuve to really jumpstart that lineup. And then if you have Bregman, who, by the way, also needs to get going. But, if you're 5 really strong and then you tail off after that, okay. But the Astros are not 5 really strong anymore.
Now, and to Brantley, him coming back, he's not a power guy either. We've seen his power steadily decline over the years as well. And so, I'd say, Alex Bregman looked lost at the plate early last season. It looked like he had lost all of his power. He's not much. The results aren't there this season, but he doesn't look lost on the plate. He's got power. He's just had some unfortunate at-bats. I will say, it's not all doom and gloom. I know that's where we default to when you're under 500. Hunter Brown, I have to bring him up just because three games, again, small sample size, so we cannot overreact to, but man, 3 games, a 1.93 ERA, 17 Ks over 18 and 2/3 innings. Look, we're going to, I'm sure, talk about Luis Garcia, who has not, had a really good start to this season. It's been a pretty bumpy start for a lot of the starters outside of Jose Urquidy and Hunter Brown, but you couldn't have expected this out of Brown, at least not this good out of the gate. What have you seen out of Hunter Brown, Charlie, that really has made him look so dominant this early?
Just want to throw in, as a fan, I guess it's actually, unless it's making you physically ill, it's fun to panic when things go down the wrong path a little bit. If that's just the opposite of euphoria when it's going well, there should be no doom and gloom. I mean, concern, disappointment, frustration, agitation. Okay. But doom and gloom, there's 7 and 9, right? Chill pills for everybody. Hunter Brown, when his command is on, I mean, he's going to be a really good major league starter. The stuff is plus. Josh referenced, and I wonder if the radar gun's just off a little bit this year, if everyone's down a mile and a half per hour. But Hunter Brown touched 98 in the start over the weekend. Again, it's still very early, and we're talking 2 starts among 4 max for any major league starters at this point. But Hunter Brown, the first guy in the big leagues to post consecutive outings, going at least 7 innings, giving up 0 earned runs in either of them. And Hunter Brown, this plays at Minute Maid Park or any other park, 39 major league innings he's pitched now regular season. The 20 and a third last year, 18 and 2/3 through 3 starts this year. Hunter Brown still has not given up a home run in the major leagues. Right? And the way to avoid big innings, don't walk guys, don't give free passes to help set up big innings, and you keep the ball in the ballpark. Right? It's tough for lineups to string together 4 or 5 hits in an inning on a regular basis. So Hunter Brown, and maybe he'll never be a premium command type guy. If he becomes that, along with just the raw talent arsenal, well, then he's going to be a number 1 or 2 starter. But if he's a really good 3 or 4 back of Framber, and once you expect Javier to settle in, I doubt Luis Garcia is suddenly washed up. And, oh, by the way, the Astros control Hunter Brown to like 2075.
Is that all? Yeah, he'll be around for a while. Charlie referenced the velocity being down a little bit. I found this on Fansided. It went up yesterday, I believe. So Javier's 4-seamer down from 93.8 to 92.6. Urquidy's down from 93.5 to 92.7. And even Hunter Brown, he's not down a full mile per hour, but it's low 96 instead of high 96. And of course, this was yesterday. So that should include his most recent start. So everybody down a little bit. The one that concerns me the most is Ryan Presley's 4-seamer is down from 94.5 to 93.6, which they noted is the lowest of his career. And we've seen how much Presley is struggling. So that's something to keep an eye on. Is it WBC? Is it just early in the year? Is it fatigue from the long playoff runs over the last couple of years? Who knows? But hopefully it's something that gets better. I mean, we're sitting here and Presley has 0 saves on the season and the worst ERA on the team. It's even higher than Garcia. So I'm a little more concerned there with the bullpen than I am with the starters at this point.
Josh, do you happen to know the data you cited there? Were they comparing velocity this point in the season to this point last season, or the full season data?
I just think they're overall. Yeah, I think they're overall average. Yeah.
You may have alluded to the answer. Right? We're still at a stretch in the season where some guys are up to their full load, and we've seen a couple complete games pitched. Others are still building some arm strength. And if you had the hiccup in the preparation process with the WBC, or you just shut down for a week for whatever reason. So that's another one for the it bears watching column, right? If everyone's on and you're thinking, 1 mile per hour, that shouldn't make much difference. Well, it's not going to be a helpful difference. So any difference that's a negative, you'd prefer it to be on the positive side of the ledger.
Well, as we are kind of offsetting, I talk about the good and the bad. So we talked about, Hunter Brown, how the good he looks. The exact opposite of that is how Luis Garcia has started off this season. He's 0-2 with an ERA that's approaching 8. And that is not what you were hoping to get out of Luis Garcia. We had hoped that maybe this would be a season in which he took a step up because they would need him more, and maybe he could, ascend into a really solid number 3 role, if not a number 4. At this point, you can't fade even a number 5 starter that's carrying an 8 ERA. I don't think that's what he's going to do all season. Outside of velo, he just really looks uncomfortable on the mound. I don't know. Like, Luis Garcia is a guy who I really can't figure out. Every time I think he's going to take this big step forward, he seems to regress a little bit. And then every time I'm ready to give up on him, Dusty taps him. He goes into in the postseason and throws 5 scoreless in one of the most important games of his career. I don't have an answer for who Luis Garcia is yet, Charlie. What do you see him as? What do you see his trajectory? Because it's really hard to project at this point.
My guess is, number 4 starter in a good rotation. Right, his ERA was in the high 3s last year, and he's still a young enough guy that he could find another year into which he kicks it and gets going. His stuff is good, but it's not great. He doesn't have a classic put away pitch. His command isn't bad, but it's not sharp. Start in, start out, which is why he has occasional problems with the home run ball. Just 3 starts. The Astros will not face Alex Manoah in this Toronto series. They're a young stud, 3rd for the Cy Young Award last year, an ERA of 2.24. His ERA is like 6.93 through 3 starts. Jose Barrios, who was real good with the Twins a couple of years ago. The Blue Jays acquired him and then gave him an 8-year, $131 million extension. He's a mess. His ERA is over 7. So, one bad start can warp an ERA just as one really good one can pull it down. I'm going to rule out any struggle with you can't do the cha-cha windup anymore. When he had that devastatingly awesome appearance in the WBC against the Dominican Republic. So I just think he's out of sorts. And if you have a lousy 3-start stretch in August, maybe August, then you're thinking, dog days of August, he needs a second win. If it happens in late May, it's kind of an air pocket. But when it's your first 3 starts of the season, I mean, he's sticking out like a real sore thumb in the rotation at this point. But I wouldn't be reaching for the ripcord on him yet.
No, and what's the plan to replace him if you do? I mean, it's way too early to even do that. And McCullers, it looks like they're talking about him just being ready to start mixing in breaking balls before the month's over. I mean, that's May. That's still 2 weeks away, where it looks like he's gonna, be throwing his full assortment of pitches. So McCullers doesn't sound that close to me. I think they kind of just have to ride this out while they get. Seth Martinez hasn't looked good in the bullpen. Blanco's had his struggles. Some of the guys they were extending a little bit, getting to throw multiple innings, they're really struggling too. So I just think you just have to grin and bear it here for a while.
And Garcia's had 2 solid seasons as a major league starter, so I don't think you would want to consider an unduly short leash, even if you had the logical replacement candidate knocking at the door. I'm not going to say knocking at the door yet, but this is where you might brand you. Is that Forrest Whitley's music? 2 very impressive 4-inning starts so far for the Space Cowboys, but 8 innings, giving up just a couple hits, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts. He needs to string together more and get stretched out a little. But come late May, right, if Garcia just happens to be bad another month from now, the Astros arrive at their first stretch of playing 13 days in a row, something like that. Where maybe you'd want to drop in a 6th starter a time or 2, or if you were looking to sub in someone. So that'd be quite the story if Forrest Whitley can thrust himself into the picture. I'm going to guess that he'll be available as an alternative the first time you seriously might think about one, sooner than Lance McCullers is ready to go.
He's in the picture now, and it was someone who we were worried about in spring training because he had sore hands. Well, now his hands might be sore from carrying this team. He continues to be an RBI machine. I'm talking about Yordan Alvarez, 20 RBI to this point, 288 batting average, and a 974 OPS. He is everything that you could have hoped he would be out of the gates. He looks every bit as dominant as he is at any point in his career. And again, we were worried about those hands, but man, he is just mashing out there. if he stays on this trajectory and the Astros can kind of turn things around, I know the popular debate is between Judge and Ohtani about AL MVP, but could Yordan Alvarez supplant those guys in this conversation?
Well, sure. And the pace game, of course, at the 10% mark is silly, but Yordan Alvarez is on pace to drive in 200 runs this season. Major league record for season, by the way, is 191. Yeah, so much for we're going to sprinkle in some regular off days for Yordan early. No, thank you. And thank goodness. Kyle Tucker actually has the higher OPS of the two, which is a byproduct of all the walks that he's drawn, as well as Tuck swinging it well. Yordan's just amazing. As menacing a presence as there is in the game. I got the reminder in the Sunday night game that even it's tough deal hitting major league pitching. And the Astros, Will Smith couldn't get anyone out as an Astro, but Will Smith always gets out every Astro. Where he got Yordan to hit the little dribbler with the bases loaded. So, big from the crowd. Yordan can't hit 1,000. Though he had been hitting 1,000 with the bases loaded, 3 for 3 and a walk with 10 RBI in 4 bases loaded appearances already this season before the one Sunday night. But yeah, look, if Yordan Alvarez stays healthy, he's 26 years old. We're in the still early stages of a Hall of Fame Mashers career. He's an animal in the most favorable sense of the term.
Yeah,
like the
not
Muppet.
much I can add to that. I agree with Charlie. I was thinking about Kyle Tucker too. I mean, they're sitting there with the same amount of home runs, and yeah, Tucker's getting all those walks, not much protection at all for him. Of course, you could argue about the protection right behind Yordan when you don't get to Tucker. I mean, Abreu, but you still have better hitters later in the lineup. And I'd like to point out Pena too. I know he's not killing it or anything like that, but leading the team in doubles. He's got a couple home runs. He's at least hitting over 200, which Bregman is not right now. So hopefully Pena can get things going. That would be a really nice bonus. I know he, had an error the other day. That's going to happen. He still won a Gold Glove, so we're not giving up on Jeremy. And one of our commenters here, I think, made a really good point talking about Urquidy and Garcia just quickly. Maybe a good idea there by Dusty to be like, yeah, we're not trading Jose Urquidy. That, as we're looking back at the rotation this year and how much they're leaning on Urquidy, good thing they decided to hold on to him.
Yeah, and the schedule doesn't get any easier for the Astros. They open a series. If you're listening to live, then they open a series tonight against Toronto. And then it's Braves, the Red Hot Rays, Phillies and Giants, and then Mariners. So this could get ugly if the Astros aren't able to string together some wins. Have they won 2 games in a row all season yet? Or
2, not 3 yet.
Okay. So, yeah, so you've got a daunting task. It's not exactly a murderer's row, but I mean, the Rays are absolutely red hot. The Jays are good. Braves are good. Phillies, they've got their own injury woes they're dealing with as well, but you're going to find out in short order, how big of a hole you're gonna have to dig yourself out of. Do you guys like looking at this and kind of seeing what the schedule projects out at? Do you guys see them coming out? Let's say the Rays series. That's 3 series. That's Jays, Braves, and Rays. So after that 3rd series, do you guys see them still hanging around 500? Are they above 500? Are they below 500?
Yeah, look, they're facing teams that are better than them right now in each of these 3 series. Going in, Toronto at 10-6, the Braves 12-4 at the start of the week. And then it took the Blue Jays to finally deal the Rays a couple of losses. They start the week at 14-2. So the Astros could play good baseball in these series and drop 2 out of 3. They've never fared particularly well in St. Petersburg. All right, this is their first trip to Atlanta. Were they in Atlanta last year? I think they were in Atlanta last year, were they?
Yeah, that's where Yordan had to deal with the smoke, right?
Yeah. So not their first trip there since the 21 World Series. So over these 9 games, if they go 5-4, that's just fine given the level of competition. You add that to 7-9, you're still under 500 at 12-13, but you're absolutely not getting buried in the division at 12-13. I thought this 12-game stretch, taking the 3 with the Rangers and then the 3-3-3 to come, you go 7-5 in that stretch. Okay, then you're over the 500 mark, and you're presumably playing some pretty good baseball to do that against those teams. But dropping 2 out of 3 to the Rangers means you now need to take 2 out of 3, or sweep one of them if you're going to lose 2 out of 3 in another. And then you go 6-3 in these 9 games if you're at the end of this 12-game stretch over 500. So as long as it isn't some sort of free fall that you drop 8 of these 9 games and whoa, you're suddenly 6.5 games out of first place already. And in the American League standings, you're 11 games behind the Rays already. We get to not quite the beginning of May, but a few days into May, back-to-back series at Seattle, at the Angels, right? The first time sinking your teeth into division play. You want to be in a good spot where if the Astros are ready to get into their customary role of whipping up on most of the American League West, well, maybe you can make your move to the top of the division. So we're still early enough in the season that unless you get on a tremendous jag where you win 9 in a row or 11 out of 12, or conversely, lose 8 out of 9 or 11 out of 13, it's not going to, tip your fortune much one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm just hoping they're still hovering around 500 after this really nasty stretch. I thought Brian McTaggart had a good point about last year's club responded from the slow start with a 15-2 run that enabled them to get back in first place in the division by mid-May. But look what that required, 15-2. I mean, that's pretty sporty. So if they can just kind of be okay until they get healthy and get, Bregman to start playing like Bregman every day, I think all that's going to happen. Just stay close and you'll be in good shape.
We talk about it ad nauseum, but when you're on a championship run, to win a championship, a lot of things have to go your way. And that's balance of the ball, it's health, it's just any number of things kind of have to go your way for you to be fortunate enough to be able to close the deal and win a championship. Right now, things aren't bouncing their way. And I think, some stuff you can control. Obviously, you can, stick to your fundamentals. You can try to put the best lineup on the field. We saw someone had, I think it was Chilson. Chilson says, when does Dusty, or how long does Dusty stick with Maldi before he goes with a more offensive minded option? I don't know who that is, because you don't really have a better offensive option right now. You had hoped that was going to be Yainer Diaz. Yainer Diaz not exactly hitting the cover off the ball right now. I don't know if it's a matter of, maybe you give him more reps and hope that the bat comes around. I just don't know. I don't see that. I see that as a panic option. I don't see that as something they're going to do right away. We'll just see it. Like I said, we talked about, it's not just doom and gloom. There's, you've got some bright spots. You've got a Hunter Brown. You've got Yordan Alvarez. You got Kyle Tucker, Brian Abreu. We talked about the velo being down on everybody. Brian Abreu hit like 100.8 on one of his appearances here. So unless he was the only one with a juiced gun, I'd say everyone else's velo is down. But you've got, Alex Bregman, who could anytime pop out of this. Same thing with Jose Abreu. So if you're going to go on a run, you're going to need some things to line up in your favor. But the flip side of that is sometimes they don't. And then, you see what happens to, you saw what happened to the Yankees last year on pace, blah, 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 120 wins. And then, they end up winning 99 and get swept out of the championship series. So it just really depends. You can't really plan on everything. You have to have a little bit of luck. Hopefully, as we've mentioned, Altuve gets back, Brantley gets back, and they can be their old selves, and everybody else can get those good mojo vibes back as well. Guys, if you're watching us live and haven't commented yet, now is your chance. It's the bottom line question of the week. I'll pose a question to Charlie and Josh, but everyone gets to answer. There is a delay on the feed, so keep that in mind. We will get answers on our end a little bit delayed, so make sure you get your answers in early so that we can read them on the broadcast. Guys, we've talked about Kyle Tucker, and he has looked every bit as good as you could have hoped coming into this season so far. He hasn't hit that patented Kyle Tucker skid yet, but right now he's just really looking great. Even not having protection, he's just walking as many walks as you could hope for. He's still under contract for this and 2 more years. thankfully. So we're not having to worry about that yet. But should Kyle Tucker get to free agency, do you guys think that he's going to command the highest contract in baseball?
In all of MLB?
Yeah.
No. Because, I mean, we're going over $350 million if we're going there, or if we want to backdate to Mike Trout's $426 million, granted over 13 years. Kyle Tucker at 28, could he be a $300 million player? As a non-middle infielder, center fielder, I'm gonna lean under on that, but he could still make a killing. In Kyle Tucker's potential free agency class, end of the 2025 season, with the Blue Jays in town, notably Vladimir Guerrero Jr., if he doesn't do a mega deal. Their shortstop, Bo Bichette, who doesn't profile as grossly inferior to Trey Turner with the contract that he got. And on the mound, if starting pitching always commands a premium, Dylan Cease of the White Sox is also a post-2025 possible free agent. So since you set the ultimate high bar, Brandon, I will take the easy and I think pragmatic way out and go under on Kyle Tucker ever getting the richest contract in all of MLB.
Yeah, I think Shohei Ohtani is going to come up before Tucker, right? And I don't think Tucker's going to get what he's going to get. So, yeah, I'm going to go under on that.
Yeah, I'm same way. I think should Ohtani's going to get all the dollars, he will definitely get it. But I think Tucker will make a killing. I do wonder though, guys. This is an addendum to the bottom line question here. If things continue on this trajectory, and maybe the Astros don't have a great season, do you think maybe that convinces Papa Crane to maybe open the billfold and maybe pay? Man, I'm really dating myself calling it a billfold, but pulls out the checkbook.
Wait,
I'm
I'm too young.
Yeah, I guess checkbook's not any better. But does Jim Crane rethink maybe his thoughts on that contract, for that a long extended contract for Kyle Tucker?
You know, his business model has been so sensible and they've been so disciplined where we're just not going beyond this point. They were never in the game on Garrett Cole, but Verlander, Correa, Springer, what in the business or scientific community, brain drain, right? At some point, enough talent drain, no matter how disciplined and shrewd and smart you are and fiscally savvy, you still need to have the talent on the field. Kyle Tucker certainly will be getting the richest contract in Astros history. Right, Altuve's 5-year extension was $151.5 million, a little over $30 million per year when they tacked onto the 2 years that he had remaining. Right, Yordan, it just looks like a song. No tears for $115 million guaranteed. But if Yordan had not signed that, what could he ask for right now? At least another $100 million. So, you know, markets evolve. Sometimes you say, well, the market's stupid. Just because my friends are jumping off the Brooklyn Bridge doesn't mean I have to follow. This particular past offseason, the nutso lengths of contracts, even with design to spread them out for collective balance tax reasons, there are going to be some real buyer's remorse issues, I think, on the back half of those contracts and maybe before that on some of them. Does that mean that, you know, Kyle Tucker gets 10 years, $300 million here? I don't think it's unreasonable at all to use at least certain contracts as templates for your negotiation. You know, you can say, hey, forget it. We're not signing you at $35 million per year when you're 40, 41 years of age. But, you know, when a guy's 29, 30 years of age, and if Tucker hangs up this season and next season at an elite or very close to a level, you know, then that reasonable market is $25 million per year plus. Austin Riley with the Braves, basically same year as Tucker, 10 years, $212 million. To categorically reject 8 years, and I'm sure the Astros would say, well, you haven't categorically rejected. It's just been our philosophy to this point. You know, intelligence allows for some change of opinion over time, and I think at some point in time, the Astros are going to have to change some.
I think it could be what unfolds this year could maybe have something to do with it. The way the Astros have found value really smart way so far is they've gone after really great older players, Justin Verlander, Michael Brantley, now Abreu. But if this year, if Brantley doesn't really recover from this shoulder and Abreu continues to hit like this, then yeah, maybe Crane looks around. It's like, this isn't working anymore. Maybe we do need to lock up some of these younger guys. So we'll see. I'm not ruling anything out.
All right. Well, that was a good way to pad the time so I could let everyone respond. So let me get back into our response, and Jack, keep starting them as they keep coming in. Eddie Ruiz says nope. And this is on the bottom line question of whether Tucker will command the biggest contract. Eric Shrine says, don't let Kyle Tucker become a Lamar situation. I'm assuming that means, well, Kyle has an agent, so that immediately rules out that Kyle's agent is not his mother. So I think that immediately makes that different. Steven says, yes, sir. He's only getting better. Astroworth Craig says, don't think so. David Wagner says he won't beat Ohtani's contract. He could beat Judge's. Charlie, what do you think about that? Do you think he could out-pull or out-earn Aaron Judge?
No. I think the Yankees were forced to pay a premium. The Giants were a stalking horse. And, it only takes one team willing to go crazy. But 9 years, 360. If Kyle Tucker gets that, Jim Crane will be right to say, too rich for my blood.
Yeah, and I have a feeling if Kyle Tucker can command that on the open market, that must mean that the preceding 2 seasons were amazing. So that only bodes well for the Astros if he's commanding that sort of a contract in free agency. Jody says, no way Tucker gets a contract that exceeds either the total or annual of Ohtani. Yeah, I mean, Jax concurs, says Ohtani is going to be the richest player. Tucker will get $275 million for 10 years, says Dandy. Lee Cole, my friend Lee Cole says I'd say around 250 to 280 for 8 to 10 years. And Lee had a comment about us dating ourselves about the checkbook thing. He says we graduated in the 90s. Hey, just barely. And also, can you keep that to yourself? We have some people
barely
watching
in the 90s, or just barely graduated.
Yes.
Eddie Ruiz says he'll probably end up with the Yankees or Dodgers. Oh, come on. Don't ruin. We're trying to end on a positive note here, buddy. Tucker will leave in free agency. He was not half the arbor. Hey, nobody is. Nope, but he'll be priced out of the Astros budget. And then Shohei gets $500 million. Perhaps.
He might.
Perhaps that's definitely that is definitely within the realm of possibilities. And after we do that, then we always play this.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
That's going to wrap it. I tried to keep it to 30 minutes, guys. Maybe one of these days will be that brief, but it's Astros, and we're always going to have our opinions. I want to thank everybody who was in the comments interacting with us today. We had a lot of activity, a lot of comments today. I really do appreciate everyone who joined us live on the YouTube broadcast. I want to thank my co-hosts, Charlie Palolo and Josh Jordan, for talking some baseball with me, helped me through. It's all kind of therapeutic. Hopefully it was therapeutic for everybody. And that was in the chat, and who's listening on the audio section as well. So we're going to hopefully have some better results to talk about when we are live next Monday, 3 p.m. right here on YouTube, when we get into Stone Cold Stros episode 20. So until then, talk to you soon. Go Stros.